Okay, one of the absolute most useful modes of this scale is the next mode, starting off of A. What this one is called is Locrian Sharp 2. Gosh, it's so... it's more complicated to say it than to play it, which is often the case with music theory. We play this over a minor 7 flat 5. Where this name comes from is let's unsharp the 2. There's the 2. Let's flat it. Now we have Locrian. Locrian comes from a major scale. In this case, B flat major, or B flat Ionian if you like. If we start that on A, we get Locrian. So we have a couple of options here, and I'll explain why we might sharp the 2 versus not sharping the 2. Now, why might we use this? Well, let's take a look at the stacked thirds yet again. The basic chord shape is a minor 7 flat 5. So we see this chord symbol all the time in jazz music. Okay, let's keep stacking our thirds. Okay, so we know we can play it over this. It's going to have a regular old 9 in there. It's going to have an 11. And then we're going to have a sharp 5, which doesn't really give us a whole lot. So we're going to maybe exclude that one. You can see, again, it gets confused here. So let's stick with our root 3, flat 5, 7, 9, and 11. So that would be any of those chords we could use it over. Now let's go back to our Locrian scale. B flat instead of B. Now, let's stack that. Okay, now this is a flat 9. This was a 9. It's much less common in my experience to use a flat 9 on this type of chord. Jazz musicians like to throw in 9s and 11s, and you're not really going to get a regular 9 sound unless you raise that up to Locrian sharp 2. Now, I'm not saying you can't play this basic chord and play Locrian. You absolutely can, but if you want to throw that extension on there of a 9, you can see also the flat 9 just doesn't sound quite as nice, right? If we look at the crunch that's happening between the bottom note and the top note, it doesn't have that same consonance to it. That's much more resonant sounding to my ears. So that's another reason why we might use the Locrian sharp 2.
Hey, Noah here. Just want to let you know really quick that most of the content you're actually seeing on this channel is coming from completely free masterclasses that we've been holding. So if you actually want to join and be a part of those masterclasses, again, it's totally free. Click one of the links in the description that will give you access to free resources, free courses, and of course the free masterclasses. And as soon as you're on the email list, you will be one of the first people to know when we are holding these masterclasses. And on top of that, you get lots of free sheet music and videos and resources as well. So highly recommend you sign up. You can also join our free online community, which is in Discord, in a server there. So you can click the link down there for that as well. And we are on there interacting, hanging out, giving people feedback and advice, as well as on the free masterclasses, Zoom hangs, and feedback sessions. So again, highly recommend you get signed up, and I will see you there.
Okay, last scale, arguably the most important scale, save the best for last here, is the altered or the super Locrian scale. Actually didn't know that term until recently. So starting the C melodic minor scale on B. Okay, there is our altered scale. Now, let's look at our basic chord type here, and I'm actually going to trim some other notes away. If we take out quite a few of the notes, we have a B7 in there. We also have a B minor 7, but we're going to see why we might actually want to use a B dominant sound that's diatonic to the scale more so. Okay, so let's take the idea that B7 is our basic diatonic chord. Let's now start stacking. And I'm actually going to skip this note, and we'll see why in a second, because it's all made out of extensions. So, actually, no, let's keep that one in there. Okay, already we have a flatted fifth, so we're altering a dominant. If we stack the next note of the scale, flat 9. Okay, interesting. That would be a double note. We're doubling this note here. I'm going to take that one out. Let's go to the next skip note. Okay, there's a flat 13 in there as well. Okay, there's a root and there's a sharp 9. You can see it's just like, okay, it's an altered dominant. We're getting confused here. So let's look at this scale as though the dominant chord is our basic chord. And we're going to look at each chord tone or each scale degree and what chord tone it is. I'm going to move this down here. So again, we have to think about extensions because we're altering. The basic shape stays the same and anything above it is an extension that we are altering. So root, flat 9. Great. So we can play this over flat 9 chord. We can have a sharp 9 in the scale. That's just a doubling of the third. Flat 5, we can also call that sharp 11. Unfortunately, we have 2 or more names for everything in music theory. Sharp 5, also known as flat 13. There's our dominant 7. That's just a doubling of what we got. And root. So almost every chord tone other than the basic root 3 and 7 is an altered aspect of the extensions. So root, flat 9, sharp 9. That's already in our chord. Flat 5, sharp 5, flat 7 is already in our chord and our root. So the kind of chords that we would use this over are anything that has 2 or more alterations. So we have to have either an altered 9th and an altered 5th, also known as sharp 11 and flat 13. We have to have both because they're both in the scale. So we would look for chords like this. 2 alterations, right? We have a sharp 9 and a sharp 5. If we had, let's say we had a natural 5 and a sharp 9. Not the right scale, right? Because we're going outside of our mode now. We have a different non-diatonic note. So yes, absolutely, we have to look for something like this. 2 alterations there. 2 alterations there. Again, we already played this just in a different position. 2 alterations there. We have to have, the 5th and the 9th, or the 11th and the 9th, or the 13th and the 9th, altered, both of them. Otherwise, we're going outside of this scale. You might have even have seen the chord symbol, which it kind of started giving us. I can't get it to do it. It said B7 alt, right? B7 alt is what we're looking for. Anytime we see alt, ALT as a chord symbol, it's just kind of a shorthand way of writing 2 alterations in there. This is a very altered chord. It means that we're taking something from our altered scale. Altering the 9th, altering the 5th, both of those have to be in there. Flat 13, sharp 9, flat 9, flat 5, any of those, they are all in the scale. And we can basically express that. When we see, B7 alt, B7 ALT period, that means we kind of have some freedom to interpret that to a certain degree. You have to look at what the melody is doing, of course, and where you're coming from. But that is where we get the altered, or yes, the super Locrian scale. One of the absolutely most useful scales taken from the melodic minor.